Oh, it's getting close to EXP now, but first, we got one more arcade collection to go through. What's going on, everyone? It's Rich Haywood here from Bacon Ice Cream Productions and Team RTFC, welcoming you to yet another episode of Good Times with Retro Rich and Fun for Five. That's right. We have reached the end of, well, not the end, because there's two more on the way. But we have reached the end of what I have in my hands as the six arcade collections that we can go through. We did Jaleco 2 on Wednesday with Jaleco 1. That was cart number 6. This is cart number 5. We will today successfully complete all of the arcade collections, fun for fiving them along the way. Now, first though, in a Evercast preview, I did receive email today from Funstock. The EXPs are on hand, and they will be on the way soon. Hooray! 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 I'm pumped. You know, like, that's just very excited. Very excited. So with them processing as soon as possible to make sure that they can get the units to us as close to the release date as possible, that just very well may mean, you know, you got to keep your eyes locked on this channel. Either it'll be a short or something. I'm going to shoot a video the day I get my shipment notification, and then we'll test how long since I got my shipment notification till the box actually arrives at my door. Very excited. I didn't get anything yet, so no, they didn't process it that quickly. So I'm hoping for maybe midweek next week, end of next week, by this time next week. I'll get the email saying, hey, they put it on the plane, boat, whatever it's going to do to get on over to me. And then the week of launch, so the week of the 15th, I should be able to get that. Maybe a day early, 2 days early, something like that. I don't know. Well, but it's exciting. It's happening. So anyway, enough of all that for right now, but we're going to be talking a whole bunch about that tomorrow on the Evercast, 12/3. Don't forget, Saturday, EST, 11 a.m. EST. We'll be talking about all sorts of EXP goodness. That's probably going to be the entire show, us talking about all the kind of crazy cool stuff. Somebody did an unboxing already, got a press kit and all that. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the UI video that everyone reacted to on the Evercast. We'll all talk about that with you guys on the chat. It's going to be a great show. So without any further ado, though, we came here to talk about some Jaleco Arcade 1. So let's jump in to that right now. Let's go. All right, here we are on Jaleco Arcade 1, which is pretty awesome. This one here, I had the feeling, as I was going through it again, I had the feeling that this one might be another one of those collections where it's like, oh man, is this going to rival Data East? Are we going to get 8 richest picks right now? Maybe. Very close though. But let's just dive in. Let's start off with 64th Street, a detective story. It's a beat 'em up. I love beat 'em ups, and I love quirky, weird beat 'em ups. Even though this one isn't like the fave from other people, obviously you got your Final Fights, you got your Fatal Furies, you got your all sorts of crazy stuff. You got your Double Dragons. Everybody's happy with the beat 'em ups. In that sense, I love this one. I first experienced it actually right behind me on this Legends Arcade cabinet. It was one of the first games I actually played because, of course, 64th Street and a lot of these things actually are in like alphabetical order. So 64, because its numbers, comes up first. It's one of the first games that I played on the cabinet, and I really, really enjoyed it. So much so that I think I actually did a stream of 64th Street on my personal channel. It might still be out there. I don't think I beat it or anything, but I did actually start to play it before I got into the zaniness. That was another game we'll talk about later. Not today, but anyway, 64th Street automatically gets picked for me because it's quirky, it's fun, and yeah, okay, it might not control as well as everybody else, and it might not be as fun. There could be like repetitive enemy syndrome and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? It's fun. It's worth my time, and I think it's worth your time. It gets a richest pick. So there. That's what I got to say about 64th Street, a detective story. Let's go on to Avenging Spirit. Now this one is such a crazy game. It's a platforming action game where you are a ghost that possesses the like the bad guys. You play as these bad guys. They all have different powers. Some have guns, some have fire, like some have like a wave beam attack or that kind of thing. And you jump around, and like that's the point of the game. The only thing though is when you get into the boss, I mean, it's just you, right? So you gotta keep alive for the boss fights. But and you have a little energy bar when you're in like ghost mode or whatever. But you can pretty much just have fun, and like your avatar, so to speak, is like almost disposable, right? Like if you don't like the person you're playing or whatever, you can like die and do whatever. Yes, you take hits and all that kind of stuff, but it's such a weird concept. You're like, oh, I just want to change this character on the fly, like sort of on the fly anyway. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And again, this also suffers from a little bit of repetitive enemy syndrome. But of course, this one has a mechanic where like obviously there can only be so many player character enemies, right? There can only be so many characters you can possibly possess, or people would lose their minds trying to program the game, right? So and they do have differences. Some can jump higher, some can jump lower, some hit harder, some have like projectiles, some don't. It's kind of a cool mix. It's a really neat game, and I definitely enjoyed this one. This was a Rich's pick for sure. So give it a whirl. All right, Battler. If I'm not mistaken, this is Crow's favorite shooter in the arcade series, maybe even like in all of Evercade. I'm not sure, but I'll have to ask him tomorrow maybe. I can see why this game is wild. So if you're looking for a shoot 'em up, especially one that is just like bonkers crazy, give this one a whirl. It is super awesome. You get this it's like the flying mech thing, kind of like a Gundam kind of deal. You're flying around, you're shooting everything in sight. Really awesome, very cool looking, very cool sounding. Sound effects and music in here are really neat. The fact that like there's so much stuff going on in the background, like under you, there's things that are moving, like some scrolling effects and stuff like that. Plus on top, like the enemies are coming down, and like it's a really really neat presentation. Definitely like it. You got some challenge in there, but of course it's an arcade game, so you can start pumping those quarters and keep yourself in the mix there if you want to see everything. So it's not too difficult to get through. But it is really really cool, and it just makes you feel like this is one of those shooters where you don't feel as squishy. In fact, you feel like a badass. So like you're really just mowing people down with this thing. And it really does make you feel like, oh, I could be the hero. I could be the guy. Like it doesn't have to like run the gauntlet and go through so many lives. It's really cool. Definitely worth your time. I think Battler is an awesome game. Gets a full pick from me. Then we get to E.D.F. Earth Defense Force. We played this, of course, on the console side of things, on the Jaleco collection on the console. This one definitely feels a lot different, of course, because it is the arcade game. I think it's actually a little easier to play, to be honest, than the console version. But when you compare it to Battler, and I know I hate like being put in a position where I have to like do that kind of thing, it's just it doesn't hold up as much. But I still will give it a pick because I think it's really cool that whole like choose your weapon before the stage, and you have to make sure you choose the right one, and going through that. I know it was annoying for me when I was playing in the console version. This is actually a cool thing. It's a cool game. So I definitely say, you know what, it's worth your time. Give it a whirl. And it's going to get a pick. Now, P-47, the Phantom Fighter, is another one of those where I'm like, oh man, I really want to like kind of give it that pick, and I want it to like really be there. I'm going to give this one a half pick. This is one of like I think two more. I'm just going to just take that perfection, just give it a little bit of a kink in the armor there. And the reason why is because it doesn't feel as good as the other. The next, the three games that we played and a couple more, they feel so crazy that they outshine the other games on the collection. And again, I know I shouldn't like hold that against it, but man, it's a cool game, but it feels slow after you play something like E.D.F, especially after you play something like Battler. It just doesn't feel as good. And when you put the Jaleco collection in, what are you going to play? I don't know if I'm coming back to this as much as I thought I was going to, because I like this kind of time frame. That kind of like World War II ish, scrolling shooter. Very, I like it a lot. I have a funny feeling though with the upcoming Capcom collection, I'll probably be playing 1942, 3, etc. more than P47, but this is a pretty cool one. But if you're into this, if you're like a super history buff and you don't mind a slower action shooter, I mean, play this game. But for me, half pick. All right, then we get to Rodland. This one's a crazy, like, kind of puzzly platformer thing. This one is, the goal is defeat all the enemies on stage while also collecting things to like unlock bonus stages and stuff. Um, it's kind of cool. Very colorful. It's weird, so it takes a little bit getting used to. But I think you should. I think you should actually like play it, and it is so close to like a puzzly platformer kind of thing, where it kind of like hits the puzzle alarm bells for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give this one a full pick, but it just barely got it. It's close to just a half pick for me because it's not perfect, but it's enough to where I'm like, you know what? I would put the Jaleco collection in to play this game, and that's kind of like how it gets the pick there. So then we're gonna go to Saint Dragon, another crazy shoot 'em up. It's just absolutely like bonkers. Like the artwork is crazy, the sounds are cool. It's another one of those like cool things that I think the reason why these collections exist is to highlight games that you might not have seen the cabinet for, such as this game here, Saint Dragon. I think it's worth your time just to check it out. And because it's so crazy, I think I'm just going to give it the pick just because. So it gets the pick. Definitely worth your time. Check out some Saint Dragon and play some cool side-scrolling shoot 'em up action. Then, finally, last but not least, we get to the Astyanax, which gets a half pick for me. And the reason why it gets a half pick is because when I was playing the console version of Astyanax on the other collection, I was like kind of like getting into like the whole like story thing behind it, and this one of course does have some of that stuff in there. I think this one looks better. I think it plays better, and all that. But just like the console version, there is a little bit of that like small little hitch and that giddy up there for this game, and that's because I'm not quite into that whole like soft, you have to like save your hits and then like make sure you're saving it so you can get the big swing, you do more damage, or you can like hack and then do the little damage to each enemy. It bugs me more, I think, in the arcade version here is because there's so many other enemies around you and around on the screen that I'm like, I wish I could hit harder more often. You know what I mean? So for this one, it does get the half pick, but I still think it's worth your time, and it's cool to check out. Also, it's interesting that it says the Astyanax 1989 platformer 1-player, and then in the description it says Astyanax is a platform action game for 1 or 2 players simultaneously, and you definitely do have the ability to have that. Interesting. Maybe they should, I don't know, maybe like a little update or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, Astyanax half pick. Done. So that is the Jaleco Arcade Collection, all 8 games. We got some picks, we got some half picks, no picks. So no total misses on the cart. Definitely in the cart itself. Is it worth your total time? Well, you know what? Hang out for a second. We'll go to the wrap up and I'll let you know. With this many full picks and half picks with no picks, yes, 100% is the answer. It is worth your time to pick up, especially if you're an arcade fan that just wants to like go and play some cool games that you've never tried before in the arcade. I think it's awesome. I think it's a really cool thing. And all these arcade collections, they seem to be like hitting that little niche for me that I'm like, the console collections are really nice, and they're awesome gateway back to the past where I can play all these games I never thought I would ever buy or own or whatever, and I can just go and have some fun with that. But these arcade games really do kind of take me to that other place where it's like, oh, this is the fantasy arcade I never experienced in my life, and there's all these great games that I can play, and I don't have to put it in quarters or get one of those bands. I can just put it in and start playing. They're all multiplayer on the VS, so I can play with my friends. Very cool stuff. And I know, yes, that Legends arcade cabinet behind me has a whole bunch, if not more, that I could play. But it's both experiences are a little different though. And sometimes you just want to sit down and grab a controller and play these arcade games like they are a console game. You know what I mean? And that's what it is for me on the VS. And I can't wait to actually. I want to get another VS. And I want to put it in the living room just so I can have like just the instant ability to just hit the button and play. But anyway, that's another discussion for another day. But what do you guys think of Jaleco Arcade 1? Let me know down below in the comments. Keep this conversation going. We have reached the end of the arcades for now, but that doesn't mean we are done doing Fun for Fives on collections, as of course there are some that we need to go. I think I didn't do Morph Cat. I certainly didn't do Intellivision 2 because I know I was going to hold that there. And then we've got I Was Awakening Cathedral in the C64 collection. So there's still more to come. And then, of course, the EXP will drop. When the EXP drops, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I actually think I'm going to do a first impression and an unboxing and a hooking up and all this other. I'm going to do all that kind of stuff because I think it's cool. I'm super excited to get this thing in my hand. And you know what? I think it's time for me to start doing those things. Let me know about down below too if you want to see that too. But that is it for right now. I gotta start getting ready for the Evercast and getting some notes together and all that kind of fun stuff. Ed's got some polls. I'm sure Pete and Crow's got some cool things to talk about. So I'm gonna let you go there. And until next time, we will catch you next time for some good times. I'm Rich. We'll see you later. Can't believe that thing is shipping. Awesome. Let's go.
RTFC.baconicecream.com